The night the Sydney Harbour fog rolled in, Detective Mara Quinn found a body floating beneath the bridge, its throat marked with a perfect circle of ice. Minutes later, her own phone buzzed. "You're next. Solve the puzzle before dawn." Every landmark she loves, the opera house, the back alley pubs, the train tunnels, has become a trap. The killer knows her habits, her friends, even her childhood secrets. And the only clue is a single playing card left in the victim's pocket, the Ace of Shadows. One wrong move and the whole city will bleed. The Ace of Shadows. The fog came in like a silent tide, smothering the glitter of Sydney Harbour until the opera house shells looked like pale ghosts adrift on black water. Detective Mara Quinn tightened the collar of her leather jacket and tasted the salt in the air. Midnight. A Tuesday that had no business being this cold. The call had crackled through her radio only 20 minutes earlier. Possible floater beneath the bridge. East Pylons. Now the rhythmic thud of the ferry engines was the only sound as she walked the damp boardwalk toward a cluster of uniformed officers. Constable Dylan Lee met her halfway, his breath steaming in the beam of his torch. "You'll want to see this yourself, ma'am. We pulled him in before the tide got rough." Mara ducked under the yellow tape. The body lay on a tarp, rainwater pooling around the edges. Male, mid-30s, dark hair plastered across his forehead. His eyes were open, clouded, and a faint smile curved his lips as if he'd been waiting for her. But it was the neck that stopped her cold, a perfect circle of frost etched into the skin, as though someone had pressed a ring of ice there until it burned. "Cause of death?" she asked. "Too early," Dylan said. "But there's something else." He passed her a small evidence bag. Inside was a single playing card, the Ace of Spades. Or it should have been. Across the center, in black marker, someone had scrawled one word: shadow. A gust lifted the fog, and for an instant, the harbor bridge loomed above them like a colossal steel predator. Mara felt its weight pressing down on her. She drove back to headquarters with the heater off, letting the chill keep her awake. Her phone vibrated in the passenger seat. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. A distorted voice, low and steady. "Detective Quinn? Solve the puzzle before dawn, or you'll be the next ace." The line went dead. Mara's stomach tightened. She'd dealt with copycat killers, drug-fueled threats, all the noise that came with the job. But this was different. This voice had no tremor, no hint of bluff. By the time she reached the precinct, the city felt like a different animal. Streetlights haloed in mist. Alleyways alive with whispers. She caught herself checking the rearview mirror every few seconds, half expecting the shadow of a car that wasn't there. Inside the fluorescent buzz of the homicide unit, her partner Connor Hayes was hunched over a mountain of paperwork, tie loose, coffee going cold. "You look like you've seen a ghost," he said, pushing his chair back. "Not a ghost," Mara replied, dropping the evidence bag on his desk. "A message." Connor raised an eyebrow as he studied the card. Ace of Spades. Cute. And the neck? Frozen burn. Perfect ring. Like dry ice? Maybe. But who the hell carries a block of dry ice around Circular Quay at midnight? Before Connor could answer, Mara's phone buzzed again. This time it was a text. 1 down, 4 to go. A location followed, an abandoned rail tunnel in Redfern. The tunnels beneath Redfern had been closed for decades, a warren of graffiti-scarred platforms and collapsed stairwells. They parked 2 streets away and moved on foot, torches slicing through the damp dark. Water dripped from the ceiling like a slow clock. Halfway down the main shaft, Mara's light caught something pinned to the wall. Another card. The Ace of Diamonds, the word night scrawled across it. Beneath it, a small paper map marked with an X. Connor crouched. "He's leaving us a breadcrumb trail." Mara scanned the shadows, every sense sharpened. "Or leading us into a trap." The tunnel suddenly filled with a metallic echo. Clank, clank, like a distant hammer. Both detectives froze. The sound stopped. Then a voice whispered from the dark, so close, Mara felt the vibration in her chest. "Tick-tock, detective." A cold draft swept past her and the torches flickered. By the time they steadied, the tunnel was empty. Only the dripping water remained. Back at the station, Mara spread the 2 cards on the evidence board. Shadow, night, a pattern or a poem. She pinned the Redfern map beside them. Connor leaned on the desk. "Think it's the old card game motif? Spades for death, diamonds for greed?" "Or someone spelling a word," Mara said. "Shadow, night, Maybe next is. Her thought was cut off by the ringing of the landline. She answered on reflex. The same distorted voice. 2 hours, detective. The third ace waits where the city meets the sea. Don't be late. The line clicked dead. Mara pulled up a digital map, eyes scanning the coastline. Where the city meets the sea could be dozens of spots. Connor tapped the board. Could be the Gap or Bondi, hell, even Darling Harbour. The clock read 2:07 a.m. The killer was controlling the tempo, and she hated it. We split up, Mara said. You take Bondi, I'll check the Gap. Connor frowned. And walk straight into a psycho's game? Brilliant. Mara grabbed her jacket. He's already in control. We either move or we count bodies. Wind roared off the cliffs at the Gap, carrying the sharp tang of ocean spray. Mara's torch cut across jagged rocks slick with salt. She listened for footsteps, for breath, for anything beyond the crash of waves. A flash of white caught her eye, another playing card wedged into a fissure of stone. Ace of hearts. Across it, the word fall. She crouched, heart pounding. A single pebble skittered behind her. She spun, torch beam slicing through mist. Nothing. But she knew someone was there, watching, waiting. Mara backed toward the car, the roar of the sea like static in her ears. Her phone vibrated again. This time, no voice, only a message. 3 down. Time bleeds. She climbed into the driver's seat, locking the doors with a sharp click. The fog outside swirled into shapes she almost recognized. Faces, maybe, or tricks of the dark. The killer was close. Too close. And the game was only half played. The fourth ace. The drive back to central Sydney was a blur of wet streets and neon reflections. Mara forced herself to keep to the speed limit, though every instinct screamed to floor it. 3 aces down, 1 to go if the voice's math was right. At headquarters, Connor was waiting, jacket half-zipped, face pale from the cold. You found the third? Mara set the card on the evidence board with the others. Shadow, night, fall. The red heart gleamed under the fluorescence like a drop of blood. Bondi was clean, Connor said. Not even a jogger. Whoever this is, they're playing us. They're finishing something, Mara replied. 4 to go, remember? We've had 3. Connor's eyes narrowed. What if it isn't about cards at all? What if it's a countdown? The forensic report came in just after 3. Cause of death for the Harbour victim. Hypothermic shock from an extreme cold source, likely liquid nitrogen. The ring on his throat was where the killer pressed a frozen collar. A signature. Mara stared at the printout. Liquid nitrogen's not easy to move around the city. We check labs, medical suppliers, cryotech companies. Somebody's stock is off. Connor tapped the board. Or we're chasing the wrong tail while the next body drops. Before she could answer, a heavy thud echoed down the hallway. 1, 2, 3 knocks against the station's glass entry. Mara's hand went to her holster. She and Connor moved as one. Outside on the wet pavement, an envelope lay under the security lights. No figure in sight. Inside the envelope, the ace of clubs, black ink bleeding from the word dawn. Beneath the card was a flash drive. They plugged it into the conference room laptop. A grainy video filled the screen. Live security footage from Sydney's historic Queen Victoria building. The camera panned slowly toward the Grand Clock Tower, then zoomed on a single figure standing motionless at the base of the staircase. The timestamp read 4:02. That's less than an hour from now, Connor said. Mara's pulse thudded in her ears. 4th ace. And a public landmark. The Queen Victoria building was a cavern of stained glass and echoing tile when they arrived. Sirens killed 2 blocks away to avoid tipping their hand. They moved through the ground floor in silence, torches darting across shuttered boutiques and marble pillars. A faint hum drifted from the upper gallery. Not music exactly. Something electronic, a modulated tone. At the top of the grand staircase, a figure in a gray hoodie faced the enormous hanging clock. Police, Mara called. Hands where I can see them. The figure didn't move. Connor circled left, Mara right. She could see a small cylinder on the floor, metal, frost crusting its sides. Step back, she ordered. The hoodie lifted its arms slowly and toppled backward. A mannequin. Connor cursed. Bloody hell, the cylinder hissed. A plume of icy vapor shot upward, chilling the air to a brutal freeze. The humming rose to a piercing wail. Mara lunged, kicking the device clear. The hiss died, leaving only the echo of their breathing. Connor pointed to the mannequin's chest. Pinned there, the ace of clubs, identical to the one in the envelope, and a note. Final hand at first light. Watch the water. Dawn was less than 2 hours away. The harbor again? Mara's phone vibrated. A text, same unknown number. Bring the cards. Alone. Coordinates followed. Barangaroo Reserve, a new waterfront park of stone terraces and hidden paths. Connor read over her shoulder. He wants you solo. Not happening. If we show up together, we spook him, Mara said. I'll wear a wire. You stay close. Connor opened his mouth to argue, but the look in her eyes shut him up. The eastern sky was bruised purple when Mara arrived at Barangaroo. She kept her torch low, the 4 aces sealed in an evidence sleeve. The park was a labyrinth of sandstone blocks and native trees, shadows long and cold. Water lapped softly against the quay. She heard the voice before she saw the figure, a smooth baritone now, no distortion. Detective Quinn, well played. A man stepped from the shadows, tall, lean, wearing a charcoal coat. Early 40s, maybe. A faint scar curved along his jaw like a second smile. You've kept Sydney awake tonight, Mara said. He inclined his head. It needed to wake. Do you have the cards? Mara held the sleeve tight. Why the games? Games reveal truth. People show themselves when the rules change. His eyes glittered in the half-light. Your city sleeps while power rots it from within. 4 aces, 4 sins, shadow for corruption, night for secrecy, fall for pride, dawn for reckoning. Mara took a cautious step closer. And the bodies? 1 body, more if you fail. He reached into his coat. Mara's hand twitched toward her weapon, but he only pulled out a phone and held it high. On the screen, a live video feed of a warehouse, rows of chemical drums, a digital timer counting down from 2744. Liquid nitrogen tanks lined the walls. Gas release? Mara asked, voice low. A cloud over the morning ferries, he said. Unless you stop it. Your final card is choice. A faint crackle in Mara's earpiece told her Connor was moving closer. She prayed he stayed hidden. You expect me to believe you're some vigilante hero? She said. I expect nothing, the man replied. But you of all people know the council's dirty contracts, the payouts, the poisoned water table. They'll blame a terrorist. You'll know the truth. The timer ticked past 26 minutes. Mara lunged, drawing her weapon. Phone! Now! He smiled faintly. Checkmate, detective. Before she could fire, he tossed the phone high into the air and stepped back off the stone edge, into the harbor's black water. Mara sprinted to the ledge. Ripples spread across the surface, but no body broke back through. Connor came running. Where is he? Gone, Mara said, scanning the water. And we've got less than half an hour. They raced for the car, sirens wailing into the pale wash of dawn. The address on the phone's GPS led to a decommissioned shipping warehouse near White Bay. Connor radioed for backup and bomb disposal. 20 minutes, he said. If that timer's real. It's real, Mara answered, eyes on the road. The city was waking now. Commuters, morning joggers, the smell of bakery bread seeping through the mist. Ordinary life, oblivious to the quiet clock running out. As they neared the bay, Mara gripped the wheel tighter. Somewhere ahead, the final ace waited, and the game's true hand had yet to be revealed. Countdown at White Bay. The warehouse crouched on the edge of White Bay like a rust-stained leviathan, its corrugated walls slick with salt spray. Dawn's first gray light was just beginning to bleed across the harbor as Mara and Connor skidded to a halt outside the chain-link fence. 2 bomb squad vans screeched up behind them, blue lights flashing in the mist. Officer Ruiz, the squad leader, hopped out, visor already down. You're sure about the intel? Live feed, 27-minute timer, Mara said, voice sharp. We're under 20 now. Ruiz signaled her team forward. They cut the padlock and slipped inside. The air inside was bitter cold. Frost haloed each breath. Cylindrical tanks lined the walls, their warning labels ghostly in the half-light. A digital clock mounted to a support beam glowed 1842 in menacing red. Connor swore under his breath. Bloody hell, that's no fake. Mara's gaze swept the room. In the center stood a waist-high console connected by hoses to the tanks. A single playing card was taped to its screen. The Joker, black and white, grinning wide. Across it in the same hand as the others, a single word, choice. Not an ace, Connor muttered. He changed the deck. Ruiz crouched to examine the console. Looks like a custom release valve. We can disarm it, but the wirings... She stopped, peering closer. Trip sensors. Anyone cuts the wrong line, we trigger the release. Mara's phone buzzed. Unknown number. She put it on speaker. The familiar voice flowed out, calm and intimate. Detective Quinn. Last hand. 2 buttons on that console. green and red. Green stops the timer but vents a lethal dose through the ceiling. Red keeps the gas locked but sends a fire through the tanks, enough to level the block. Which lives matter more? Mara steadied her breath. You think I'll play executioner for you? You already are, the voice replied. Every delay is another breath of poison waiting to escape. Decide. The line went dead. Ruiz cursed softly. If he's telling the truth, either way is catastrophic. Mara stared at the console. 2 buttons. No third option, but the killer thrived on misdirection. There had to be another way. Connor scanned the tanks. He said 4 sins. Shadow, night, fall, dawn. Maybe there's a clue in the pattern. Shadow for corruption, night for secrecy, fall for pride, dawn for reckoning, Mara murmured. And choice. Her eyes darted to the Joker card. Choice might not mean pressing a button. It might mean refusing to. She turned to Ruiz. What about a full nitrogen flush? Rapid vent to outside air if we open the waterfront doors? Ruiz blinked. You'd have seconds before the pressure spike. But if we bleed it fast enough, the concentration drops below lethal before ignition. Do it, Mara said. The bomb squad split, 2 officers sprinting for the bay doors. Connor grabbed the emergency wheel and cranked. Rust screamed as the doors inched open. A frigid gust swept in, dragging a curtain of Harbour fog across the floor. Ruiz gave a sharp nod. Release valves on my mark. 3, 2, 1. They twisted the valves. A violent hiss filled the warehouse as white vapor roared toward the open doors, billowing like a winter storm. Frost raced across the concrete, stinging their cheeks. The timer continued to tick. 0432, 431. Pressure's dropping, Ruiz shouted over the howl. Keep them open. The red numbers flickered, stuttered, then froze at a 207. For a heartbeat, the only sound was the dying hiss of escaping nitrogen. Then the clock went black. Connor exhaled, shoulders sagging. We're alive. Mara wasn't ready to celebrate. He's still out there. Ruiz retrieved the Joker card, sealing it in an evidence bag. No explosives, no secondaries, just enough gas to panic the city. Mara stared at the card's grin. The man had forced her to choose, but she'd chosen a third path. That would enrage him. Outside, morning commuters clustered behind police tape, phones out, filming the flashing lights. Helicopters thudded overhead. News of the attempted chemical attack would spread faster than the fog. Connor rubbed a hand over his face. We leak this. Sydney goes into full terror mode. He wants that, Mara said, but we control the story. We keep the city calm. Her phone buzzed again. A new message. A single sentence. Well played, detective. Next time, no safety net. No number, no trace. They returned to headquarters as the sun edged over the horizon, washing the harbor in copper and rose. Mara felt the weight of the night settle into her bones. Hours ago, the city had been a chessboard. Now it was just Sydney, awake and unaware. But she knew the game wasn't finished. In the incident room, she pinned the Joker beneath the 4 aces on the board. A crooked royal flush of threats. Connor poured 2 mugs of coffee, hands still trembling. You think he's one of ours? He asked. Ex-military, maybe? Knows explosives, chemistry, surveillance. Knows me, Mara said quietly. Connor frowned. What makes you say that? The first victim, Martin Hales. I looked into his file on the drive back. He was internal affairs. 5 years ago, he investigated a corruption case involving the Harbour expansion contracts. She met Connor's eyes. So did I. You think he blames you? Not blames, tests. Mara's gaze lingered on the playing cards. The man had called it a game, but it was more. An audition. A twisted partnership offer. She shivered despite the warm office. He's telling me I passed. By late morning, the official line was set. Chemical threat averted thanks to swift police action, investigation ongoing. Reporters clamored outside the station. Mara dodged them, slipping into her unmarked car for a brief moment of silence. The city bustled around her. Trams clanging, gulls crying, ferries cutting silver wakes through the water. To everyone else, it was just another Sydney morning. Her phone vibrated once more. No number. Only an image this time. A photograph of her standing at the edge of Barangaroo, taken from behind. The scar-jawed man was nowhere visible, but the caption chilled her. The 5th card is you. Mara closed the message and stared out at the harbor. The game had only paused, and somewhere in the waking city, the Ace of Shadows was still watching. The 5th card. Detective Mara Quinn slept for barely an hour before the nightmare began again. Not in her head, but in the city around her. By the time she reached the precinct at midday, a courier envelope was waiting on her desk. No postage, no sender, just her name in neat black letters. She slid it open carefully. Inside lay a single black feather and a photograph, the view from her own apartment balcony, taken sometime during the night. At the bottom of the photo, scrawled in marker, "Fifth card is you." Connor whistled low when she showed him. "That's not just a threat. That's surveillance. He's inside your life." Mara forced a breath through her teeth. "He's already been inside my life." They pulled every feed from the building's CCTV. Hours of footage revealed nothing but static during the window. The photo must have been taken. Someone had looped the cameras. Forensics reported the feather belonged to a black swan, iconic to Western Australia, rare in the city. A signature or a taunt. Mara's phone chimed with a private message on an encrypted app she'd never installed. A single line appeared: "Meet me where the black swans were first tamed. Midnight." Connor frowned at the screen. "What the hell does that mean?" "Centennial Park," Mara said slowly. "Early settlers kept black swans in the ornamental lakes. It's public, hard to secure." Connor grabbed his coat. "Then we blanket the place. Uniforms, drones, the lot." "No," Mara said. "He'll smell a trap. I go alone." "You're not serious. He's escalating. If I don't show, he'll choose the time and place himself." The park after dark was a quilt of moonlight and shadow, the lakes silver under a thin mist. Mara walked the winding paths, hand brushing the butt of her sidearm, every rustle of reeds a possible ambush. A low voice floated from the darkness. "You came." He emerged from behind a stand of paperbark trees, tall coat, scarred jaw, eyes as calm as the water. "You're getting predictable," Mara said, though her pulse kicked hard. "I wanted privacy for our next move," he replied. "Sydney isn't ready for the truth, but you are." "Truth about what?" "The rot in the foundations. Politicians laundering millions through harborfront projects, hiding spills that poison your drinking water. You know it. You once tried to stop it." Her mind flashed back 5 years, to a corruption probe the department had quietly buried. She had testified. The council had promised reform and nothing changed. "You kill one man to make a point?" she said. "Threaten thousands more?" He stepped closer, hands open. "I kill no one unless forced." Hales was an accident of loyalty. He refused to see the game. But you, Mara, you see it. You outplayed me at the Bay. That's why you belong in the next phase. Mara tightened her grip on her weapon. "And what's that? Terrorism with a PR campaign?" "Call it exposure," he said. "I have evidence. Contracts, offshore accounts, safety reports. Enough to bring half the city government down. I need someone inside to deliver it. Someone the people trust." He pulled a slim flash drive from his pocket and held it out like an offering. "You." The swans on the lake shifted, their black silhouettes gliding over moonlit ripples. Mara kept her gun trained. "Why the murders? The riddles? The circus?" "To test resolve," he said. "To prove you're not like them. Every card a measure of will. You passed." A faint click of a safety behind her. Connor's voice cut through the night. "Hands where I can see them." The scarred man smiled slightly. "Ah, the loyal partner." Connor stepped from the shadows, weapon steady. "You're done." But the man simply dropped the flash drive at Mara's feet and raised his hands. "Arrest me, detective, if you think you can hold me." Connor cuffed him while Mara pocketed the drive. He didn't resist. "Do you even have a name?" Mara asked as they led him toward the path. He met her gaze, eyes almost amused. "Names are masks. Call me the dealer." At headquarters, the dealer sat in an interrogation room, silent as stone. Lawyers appeared within the hour, expensive and well-briefed. He refused to speak, refused even to sign paperwork. Meanwhile, tech analysts cracked open the flash drive. Inside, terabytes of data. Scanned contracts, financial records, internal emails, everyone pointing to a network of bribery and environmental crimes stretching from city council to federal contractors. Connor shook his head at the scrolling documents. Bloody hell, he wasn't lying. The commissioner arrived in person, face gray. "This is dynamite. Half these names are untouchable. If we mishandle this, it's political suicide for the force." Mara crossed her arms. "So we bury it again? Just like last time?" The commissioner didn't answer. Hours passed. When Mara finally returned to the holding cell, the dealer was gone. The CCTV showed nothing, just a blank static feed during the precise 10 minutes of his disappearance. The lock was intact. Guards swore they never left their post. On the table where he'd sat rested a single playing card, the Queen of Spades, marked with one word in neat black script. Continue. By dawn, the city was buzzing with rumors. A mysterious chemical threat, unconfirmed arrests, whispers of government scandal. None of it official. All of it unstoppable. Connor slammed his fist against the evidence board. How the hell does someone vanish from a locked room under full surveillance? Mara stared at the Queen of Spades. Maybe he never left. Maybe he was never really here the way we think. Connor gave her a sharp look. You're starting to sound like him. Maybe I'm starting to understand him, she said quietly. Her phone chimed once more. An image filled the screen. Sydney's skyline at sunrise, taken from a vantage point she knew well, the rooftop of her own building. Across the sky, digitally scrawled words, the next card is the city itself. Your move, detective. Mara pocketed the phone and looked out the precinct window where the harbor glittered under a pale morning sun. The game wasn't over. It had barely begun. City on the line. The morning headlines screamed mystery dealer vanishes from police custody, and by midday, every radio host in Sydney was demanding answers. For once, the department had none. Detective Mara Quinn sat in the briefing room, eyes fixed on the Queen of Spades pinned beneath the 4 aces and the Joker. The cards formed a crooked crown, a silent dare. Connor dropped a newspaper onto the table. He's turned the whole bloody city into his audience. People think he's some Robin Hood now, exposing corruption, humiliating the cops. He wants chaos, Mara said, and a bigger stage. Her phone vibrated. Unknown number. Tonight. Observatory Hill. Midnight. Bring the truth or lose the city. They prepared quietly, no sirens, no public statements. Mara insisted on a minimal team. Just herself, Connor, and a silent drone overwatch. Too much presence would spook him. Too little, and they'd be blind. By the time they reached the old sandstone lookout, the harbor glittered under a clear sky, 1,000 city lights like fallen stars. The giant telescope dome stood dark, a figure weighted by the railing, silhouetted against the bridge's arc. The dealer. He turned as they approached, hands resting lightly on the steel rail. Detective Quinn, he said, voice as calm as the night. The city listens. Mara kept her weapon holstered. You've made your point. You have the evidence. Surrender and we take it public. I already have, he said, holding up a small transmitter. At dawn, every major outlet will receive the files. Corruption exposed. But truth needs spectacle. Connor stepped closer, jaw tight. What kind of spectacle? The dealer smiled faintly. A choice. Again. He gestured toward the bridge. Far below, ferries moved like toy boats through the dark water. 2 ferries, he said. One carries council leaders celebrating their quiet deals. The other, ordinary commuters heading home late. In 20 minutes, an explosive charge on a single vessel will detonate unless you stop it. You can save one. Not both. Connor's hand went to his radio. We'll evacuate? Try, the dealer interrupted. But I control the detonator. You interfere. They both go. Mara forced her breathing steady. You're bluffing. Am I? He tapped his phone. A live feed appeared on the screen. 2 ferries, each marked with a red blinking dot. Timers read 1959. Connor whispered, We can't risk a call-out, if he's got a dead man switch. Mara studied the feed. The blinking patterns weren't random, short, short, long, long, short, short, Morse code. She narrowed her eyes. The signals, they're different. One's an SOS, the other isn't. Connor caught on. He's giving you a tell? The dealer watched, amused. I knew you'd see it. The SOS flashed from the commuter ferry. The other pattern on the council vessel repeated a meaningless rhythm. You'd sacrifice the corrupt and save the innocent, Mara said. Wouldn't you? But the pattern gnawed at her. Too obvious. The dealer's puzzles always had a third door. She replayed the feed, slowing it. Behind the blinking lights on the council ferry, she spotted a subtle shimmer. Digital artifacts. A looped overlay. The commuter boat's live, she murmured. The other's a fake feed. Connor blinked. You think he reversed them? I think he wants me to choose the wrong one and kill civilians. Mara faced the dealer. Your tells are sloppy tonight. A spark of admiration lit his eyes. Prove it. She keyed her radio. Harbour Command. Evacuate ferry Southern Star. Repeat Southern Star. Priority 1. Redirect commuter lines. Clear the water east of Dawes Point. The dealer's smile widened. Bold. Minutes crawled. Distant sirens wailed across the harbor as police boats intercepted the commuter vessel. Passengers scrambled onto rescue craft. On the dealer's phone, the fake feed flickered, froze, then dissolved to static. "Clever," he said softly. "You've earned the final card." He reached into his coat. Connor raised his weapon, but the dealer only produced a single laminated card. The King of Hearts, wordless. Crimson. He placed it on the railing. Endgame. Before Mara could move, a helicopter's searchlight blazed across the hilltop. SWAT officers poured from the shadows, weapons drawn. The dealer glanced up, almost disappointed. "You called backup, after all." "I don't gamble with lives," Mara said. He gave a small bow. "Nor do I." Then he stepped backward toward the steep incline and fell. Mara lunged, hand outstretched, but her fingers closed on empty air. She peered over the edge. Nothing. Only a scatter of rocks and the dark slope plunging toward the Harbour Road. The search teams combed the hillside until dawn. No body, no trail. Just the King of Hearts, gleaming wet with dew. Back at the station, the corruption files went live exactly as promised. City Hall erupted. Arrest warrants flew. The public hailed the unknown whistleblower as a hero. Connor dropped into the chair opposite Mara, eyes ringed with exhaustion. "We'll never catch him, will we?" Mara studied the King of Hearts. "Not unless he wants us to." Her phone vibrated one final time. A text. No number. Checkmate. Partner. Until the next shuffle. She exhaled, a mix of relief and dread. Sydney was safe for now, but the game had not truly ended. The dealer was out there, deck in hand, waiting for the next play. Mara slid the King of Hearts beneath the others on the evidence board. The crooked royal flush stared back at her, a promise and a warning. The last shuffle. Sydney never truly sleeps, but at 2 a.m. the streets around Circular Quay felt close to silent. The opera house glowed like a pale sail beneath the moon, its reflection rippling in the black water. Detective Mara Quinn watched the harbor from her office window and felt the weight of unfinished business pressing against her ribs. The dealer had vanished. The public adored the myth he'd created, half vigilante, half phantom. Politicians fell, officials resigned, but Mara's instincts screamed that the game wasn't over. A soft knock broke the quiet. Connor entered carrying 2 steaming takeaway coffees. "Couldn't rest?" he asked. "Sleep's for people who aren't waiting for the next move," she said. He set a cup beside her. "You saved a ferry full of innocent people. City's calling you a hero. Maybe accept the win?" Mara turned the King of Hearts card over and over between her fingers. "He wants me off balance." "That card? It isn't a goodbye. It's a hint." The King of Hearts bore a faint watermark she hadn't noticed before, an outline of the Southern Cross constellation. She held it under the desk lamp. The stars weren't random. Coordinates. Connor leaned in. "Where do they point?" "Royal National Park," Mara said. "Guatemala Cliffs?" "Remote and dangerous," he muttered. "He's luring you." "That's the idea." By dawn, they were driving south, the city shrinking behind them. Sea mist rolled across the highway. At the park entrance, rangers confirmed they'd seen no one, but a trail camera had gone dark in the night, and they hiked through Banksia scrub until the ocean thundered below. Salt spray hung in the air like static. A lone figure stood at the cliff's edge, coat snapping in the wind. The dealer. He didn't turn as Mara approached. "Detective Quinn," he said, voice carrying easily over the surf. "You followed the stars." "Enough of the riddles," she replied. "This ends today." "Does it?" He held out a small black case. "Inside are files linking international syndicates to your own federal ministers. Release them and your government collapses. Keep them secret and corruption thrives. Another choice, detective, your final shuffle." Connor drew his sidearm. "Step away from the edge." The dealer ignored him. "Truth or stability? Which do you serve?" Mara kept her eyes on the case. "If I take it, what's the catch?" "No catch. Only consequence." A sudden roar of engines broke the standoff. A helicopter swept overhead, unmarked, military gray. From the side door, a man in a dark suit leveled a megaphone. "This is the Australian Security Directorate. Step away from the suspect, Detective Quinn. He's ours." Mara's stomach nodded. She hadn't called for backup. The dealer smiled faintly. "See? Corruption wears many uniforms." Agents rappelled down the rope lines, rifles ready. Connor hissed, "Mara, what the hell is this?" One of the agents strode forward. "Detective, hand over the case and withdraw. Classified matter." The dealer's gaze met hers. "Their stability or my truth. Decide." For a long heartbeat, the surf and the thudding rotor blades filled the air. Mara thought of the ferries, the aces, the bodies. of every choice she'd made to protect strangers who'd never know her name. She picked up the black case and turned, and hurled it far out over the cliff. The agents shouted, rushing forward as the case tumbled toward the ocean. The dealer laughed once, sharp as a gunshot. Perfect. He pivoted backward off the cliff. Mara! Connor lunged, but the dealer was already gone, swallowed by spray and roaring waves. Divers searched for hours. No body. No case. Only a single waterproof playing card washed ashore at dusk. The Joker, blank except for a scrawled message. The truth is never owned, only played. Weeks passed. Headlines blared about high-level arrests triggered by anonymous leaks. No one could prove the dealer's involvement, but the files he'd promised reached the public anyway. Every secret decrypted, every name exposed. Connor found Mara on the station rooftop one evening as the city lights flickered on. "Still chasing ghosts?" he asked. She held the Joker between two fingers, the inked words smudged but legible. "Not a ghost," she said. "A player, and he's still in the game." Connor half smiled. "You going to keep playing?" Mara slipped the card into her coat pocket. "Only if he deals again." Far below, the harbor shimmered, quiet for now, but alive with hidden currents. Somewhere in that darkness, a man with a deck of cards was already planning the next hand. The end.